In the internet age, you can work from almost anywhere at jobs located halfway around the world. That's the promise, and for a growing number of people, the reality. But an online job differs in many ways from a traditional one, and that's got implications for the future of work. Here to help us understand what's ahead, we welcome Armin Yalnizyan, economist and Atkinson Fellow on the Future of Workers, and economist Otto Kässi, researcher at the Oxford Internet Institute at the University of Oxford. And we are delighted to welcome you back, and you here for the first time.
Thank you.
Just tell us a bit about you. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Finland, but I've been based in the UK since 2015.
And what brings you over here?
I've been helping the government to understand what the digitization might have, what the implications digitization might have for the future of work.
Terrific. Now you're going to explain it to all of us. So you researched something called, I guess the kind of catchy term is iLabor. In an iPhone era, you're studying iLabor. What is that?
Well, iLabor is the name of an ERC, European Research Council funded 5-year project that looks at the future of work and the digital institutions that shape the labor market outcomes, what happens to workers, what happens to firms when more and more work is mediated through internet.
You got any kind of guess as to how many people participate in the online labor market?
Globally, there are millions of registered users. Many of them don't get any jobs, but they're at least looking for jobs.
Right. And what are they doing? What kinds of jobs?
By and large, jobs that you would think of as white-collar occupations. You could think of coding, graphic design, writing and translation, legal and accounting work, and also to some extent what we call click work or mic work. Think of things like paid survey taking, copying text from pictures to an Excel sheet or training machine learning algorithms to spot cars and cats from pictures.
Gotcha. Armin, I know how to look for a job the old-fashioned way, where you knock on somebody's door and you try and get an appointment. How do you find a job in this space?
It's actually like a huge auction, a global auction, where somebody posts a job and then you bid for it. And so because these are all English-speaking platforms that the Online Labor Index out of Oxford University that Otto has created, because the Online Labor Index is measuring about 6 platforms that contain about 70% of all the estimated traffic out there. So essentially what's happening on these indexes, in the index is you're seeing this growth of about 30% in the demand for such labor globally in the last 2 years.
And what's driving it?
Well, the big reason behind it is it's cheap. The transaction costs are lower. You can hire somebody from the other side of the world and do it relatively cheaply rather than going to knock on doors, rather than going to India to locally to find a worker there. You can just post an ad online and hope to get a competent Indian to do your coding job or whatever.
And do I infer from this that you don't have to pay him overtime, you don't have to pay him sick pay, you don't have to worry about days off? I mean, none of that's...
This is kind of like an online version of a temp agency, a staffing agency. And in fact, there's some question as to whether this remarkable growth in this labor market is a function of more demand for microtasks and shorter-term workers, and basically insourcing your labor instead of outsourcing it. Essentially, I'm here in Toronto, but I can ask somebody in Manila to do my deed search for my real estate transaction or doing auditing of my books. But the question mark here is whether this is actually, in part, an expansion of staffing agencies into the online world, too. So it's unclear if we're just substituting online versions of real people. So it's not more work, it's just shifting it to a different mechanism, or if this is actually brand new work.
And let me guess, you're not nutty about the shift. You're concerned about the shift.
I think we need to monitor it, because within this story that the Online Labor Index shows of 30% growth since May of 2016, which is rapid, the Canadian labor market has expanded by over 100%. So we punched above our weight in terms of the global economy at the beginning in 2016, and even more of a presence now. And if you're going to actually be talking about the future of work, you better figure out what's going on before you just natter on about it.
Otto, I understand why companies would find this advantageous to do. Are there benefits to the employees in working in this kind of way?
If you're self-employed, you can set your own schedules. You can work as much as little as you want to. You can, if you have the right skills, you can also put your skills to sale on a global labor market, so you can probably get paid quite well. But at the same time, the downside of this is that you're faced with the global competition. So it might easily be the case that if you have the skills, if you're willing to work for less, you're pretty sure that a lot of people will underbid you for your work. So it's a mixed blessing for workers.
A mixed blessing, but have you been able to sort of determine yet whether more pluses than minuses or more minuses than pluses or what?
So what we know thus far is more on the demand side. Who's looking for this work? What are the businesses? What's the nature of where the demand is coming from this work than from the supply of it? We know much less about the workers in the future of work story. And that's this is the beginning to be able to have an estimate of, we got to keep our eye on this because it's growing so rapidly. But the second part of the question is, what are these people doing? What's the quality of their life? You know, are they feeling more stress, less stress, more flexibility? More competition, what outweighs what? There's all these factors at play, right? And you know, you ask, is it good for workers? It's great for example, women who have kids at home. But there are women who have kids at home in the Philippines, in Africa, in Canada. And what we're seeing, even with just a couple of test cases, is wage convergence between the global north and the global south. So it's great for job opportunities for people in the global south. But as Otto has said, we know that there's a massive labor supply glut. More people willing to do this work than the demand for this work, despite its rapid growth, which in any market drives wages down, but now we're talking globally.
Can I get your take on that, Otto? Do you see more pluses or more minuses in this?
One big plus for the workers is that you get to escape the local. In many developing countries, there's a huge underemployment of work. So you basically, if you can get a job online, that's much better than not working locally. So that's the big plus that shouldn't be underplayed. But at the same time, as Armin mentioned, the competition's stiff. There's still many more workers than firms adapting this mode of working. So there is much more supply of work than there is demand for work, at least as of today.
The people who do this work, do you know what countries or what continents, what parts of the world they tend to live in more than others?
About 80% of the labor supply comes from outside of the OECD, whereas about 80% of labor demand comes from within the OECD. So it's a very much a north-south phenomenon where the demand is in the rich, developed world, and the supply is coming from the poorer parts of them.
And do we get a sense that more companies are going to be doing business this way as time marches on?
Well, if you take a look at the growth thus far, 30% growth. I can't point to any other market that has grown by 30% in just about 2.5 years. Again, as I said earlier, we don't know how much of this is transplanting traditional temp agency staffing practices. And actually, Otto, in our conversations in the last week, Otto has pointed out that some of the big platforms that you would know of are offering white glove services. And that actually takes the vacancies, because this index is a measure of vacancies online. That takes a lot of vacancies off the market, because you're actually providing bespoke service to clients. So we don't even know if the market's growing faster than that. You know, this whole process raises more questions than answers, but we're asking more pointed questions in the directions that help us really think about how the future of work is evolving for workers.
Now, Armin asked a bunch of questions a few minutes ago, which are good questions to ask, but I want to get your list as well. What concerns would you have about the way this is potentially going?
A lot of this stuff, in our traditional labor market, what's happening is that we have decades and centuries of history that determine the institutions under which you and me are paid, under which we work. These institutions are largely replaced by digital institutions that are purpose-built by a programming team in an individual platform company. And a lot of this stuff is happening outside of a regulated labor market. So at the very least, the policymakers should keep a keen eye on what's happening and maybe try to weed out the worst actors from this.
Well, okay, that was where I was going to go next. Where's the quality control in any of this, on both sides of of the ledger?
It's a two-sided market. So the workers and the employers get to rate each other. So probably if you're a bad actor, there will be a consequence, a pushback. If you don't deliver properly, if you don't instruct your worker properly, you probably will not be getting as many deals in the future. That's the platform-driven way of managing this. But at the same time, in our traditional labor markets, the government usually sets some minimum level under which work doesn't happen. By and large, well, some platforms do have minimum wages, but that's about as far as you have for sort of like a floor.
Well, let me follow up on that, Armin. I mean, we know that we're in the midst of a pretty big debate in Ontario right now about what the minimum wage ought to be. We know where it's not going to $15. It's going to stay at $14. Can you avoid paying minimum wage to these people if they don't live in the province of Ontario?
That's an excellent question. And I think one of the interesting ways of thinking about it is how we regulate the use of temporary foreign workers who are brought into the country to do work that employers can't find, either the number of workers, like a labor shortage or a skill shortage. And in that case, we have a rule that says you can't pay these workers less than the prevailing wage in the industry.
But these workers we're not bringing in.
Right. But if you're trying to, if a Canadian employer is saying, I can't get the person to do this, or I want somebody to do this, maybe there should be floors for Canadian employers. But what this is all raising is that in this so-called two-sided market, where we're not talking about employers and workers so much as buyers and sellers of labor, and that's being mediated through a third party, which is the platform that creams some of that transaction off the top. Whose rules should prevail? The rules of the country in which the buyer is located, the rules of the country in which the seller is located, the rules of the country in which the platform is headquartered. So we've got a lot of work to do in working through this morass of what is the floor that we're trying to establish.
Figured out yet, I guess.
We're just starting to cope with how big is this phenomenon, how fast is it growing, and what are the essentials we need to know how to regulate. We don't have enough information yet.
Can I ask a couple of really dumb questions here? This is really, or maybe I should say a couple of more really dumb questions here. How do you get paid when you work in this space? How do you get paid?
In dollars by PayPal to your bank account, something like that.
Okay. Do you pay tax on it if you're an employee?
You might. It depends on the country you're based in, how honest you are. I do believe that the big platforms do impose some sort of wage scrutiny that their clients do pay taxes on that. But as a rule, I don't know.
Because this is all it's all pretty new, right? And murky, and as you point out, the rules haven't been set yet. So how does anybody sort of figure out how to make this all work?
That's a good question, and I guess that's the entry point into what we've been doing research on for the past 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, the word that you used, murky, is the key to all of this. And if you think about how in Canada, part of the discussion on policy has been pay transparency, like getting more transparency on who gets paid what to make this labor market work better in like physical labor market of people that interchange with one another. That's going to be one of the key hallmarks going forward is if a company is operating, a platform is operating in a country, can that country impose certain standards of transparency so that we can actually see what's happening in a way where we can determine what needs to be intervened in terms of a regulation? Where are the just base exploitations? There are ways that the platform workers themselves are organizing to inform each other of malfeasance in the way they're being treated, warning that, don't go work for this client because they won't pay, or don't go work for that client because they'll delay in paying, or things like that. But you're using basically organic forms of collective organizing, which is not through a trade union, for people to help protect themselves in what is a highly atomized industry where people aren't even in the same country. They're all talking the same language. They're all bidding on the same platform, but they're competitors.
And they could be half a world apart.
Yeah.
The big challenge about regulation is that how difficult how hard a time we've been having to regulate tax havens.
Yeah.
You're going to have a regulatory tax haven. There's a risk that if one country starts to regulate, what's going to happen is that the business will just move to another country.
But you are both in the business of studying the future of work and workers. Is this the future?
To some extent, yes. I'm sure many of the viewers have had experiences on having conference calls through Skype or working with with somebody who's working remotely from another country in a different time zone. It's not easy. A lot of the institutions that the platforms put in place make it a bit less hard, but it's still not something that you'd want to do for everything, for your core business, for something that you'd actually want to sit next to somebody and bounce off ideas, etc. But for a lot of occupations, for a lot of types of work, especially for the more peripheral and supporting types of tasks within the firm, I expect that we will see more and more of this.
Yeah, I would come back and say there's three answers to your question. One is demographic. So as Otto pointed out, 80% of the supply of this labor is coming from the global south that is young. So that's point number one. And so they're looking for opportunity, and because they're cheap, there's a kind of push and pull effect, so that there are more companies in the north that can get their work done for free. The second thing that is also demographic is a lot of these workers are very young in every country. And you can only do this kind of work for so long before you start demanding better working conditions. If this is your main source, so the question is this your main source of income in the global north, or is it incremental? And how can we regulate it so that you don't get exploited because there is so much global competition? The third answer to what is this the future of work and for workers is that most of the work we're going to be doing in Canada, at least, is not digital. You know, when you go forward in the next 20 years, and again, this is partly driven by climate change and demographic change, we're going to have a remarkable growth in the need for caring occupations, people that are providing care, whether that's for children or for the elderly, and a huge demand for skilled trades that are working in construction and infrastructure, because that demographic is aging out. So we have a real question to answer, Steve, when it comes to decent work is, are we going to be skilling up our own people, or are we going to be answering the needs for these labor shortages and skill shortages by importing the solution? And if we import it, how are we going to import it? With economic immigrants who can stay and become citizens, or temporary foreign workers? So there's some very big questions about the future of work and how we in Canada, the 10th largest economy in the world, create a labor market of decent work for the 21st century. And these are answerable questions, but we have to pay attention to them.
Whose job is it to answer them?
I think every government that is elected to serve the people, they have to answer these questions. And the federal government is only responsible for 11% of the labor market for federally regulated industries, but it plays a leadership role in this platform economy because it's responsible for telecom, and because as a nation state, it can work with other nation states to prevent this, like the arbitrage that Otto was talking about, where platforms can game one jurisdiction off the other based on their regulatory rules. We have to work together. It's a global labor market. It's got to be a global regulated market.
Otto Kässi, a researcher with the University of Oxford's Internet Institute, and of course our good friend Armin Yalnizyan, Atkinson Fellow on the Future of Workers. Thanks so much to you both.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.